Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this new webinar entitled Curious About the Schmidt Competition. I am Linda McAllister, Executive Director of Schmidt Vocal Arts, and also with us tonight are Bree Litcher, our SVA Program Manager, and Chester Schmidt, the Chair of the William E. Schmidt Foundation Board, who we'll hear from in a little bit. Our hope is that by the end of this evening, you'll have a little bit more information about what happens during the competition itself, as well as tips for singers and teachers. While we will focus on our competition for high school singers, we will also briefly cover the Undergraduate Awards. Now, before we get started, we're going to launch a quick 3-question poll so that we can find out a little bit more about you. And while you're answering those questions, I'm going to welcome Chester Schmidt to say a quick hello. Chester?
Thanks, Linda and Bree. Good evening to everyone. Linda and Bree tonight, they're going to give you the kind of what of Schmidt Vocal Arts. I'm going to just take a minute and give you a little bit about the why of Schmidt Vocal Arts, because we feel a niche, really, specifically in youth vocal arts. We're able to interact with vocal students on a more personal level and understand their interests and needs. Year after year, we have seen and been told that Schmidt Vocal Arts makes a difference in young vocal artists' lives. That really keeps us motivated and dedicated, and that explains the why we do this. Simply, we enjoy it and we can make a difference. So back to you, Linda and Bree.
Thanks, Chester. The idea for this webinar was originally formulated by Bree, probably because she's the one who has to field a lot of the questions we'll cover tonight. In this session, we'll move through a number of topics. First, we'll offer an overview of our SVA programs. There's a lot more to us than our competitions. And then we'll talk about how to prepare for our live or virtual competition performances, what happens during the competition day, and just a few extra tips to strengthen your performance. If you have any questions along the way, please enter them into the Q&A boxes and we'll address them at the end of the webinar. All right, I'd like to go ahead and welcome Bree Litcher, our program manager. Bree?
Thanks, Linda. Hi, everyone, and welcome. We are really excited to be offering you this webinar tonight, and I'm really excited to hopefully see some of you at an upcoming competition this season. So, what is Schmidt Vocal Arts all about? Our flagship program is the High School Schmidt Vocal Competition. We have 16 regional competitions across the country with partner universities, plus one online cohort, which is called the Independent Cohort. At each of these regionals, there is a maximum of 30 singers. Our high school competition is open to sophomores, juniors, and seniors who are recommended by their voice teacher or choral director. They must also be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident with a social security number. All of our live regional applications are open right now, and the online cohort applications open on March 2nd, 2026. In addition to our high school competition, we offer a completely online competition for undergraduate singers majoring in vocal performance. We're going into our 6th year of this competition, and applications for that will open on November 3rd. Submissions need to be completed by November 30th, and then there are 3 rounds of competition, culminating in an online award ceremony which will be held on February 14th. There are 2 divisions, a lower division of 1st and 2nd year singers, and an upper division of 3rd and 4th year singers. The final round will be judged by industry professionals who will be announced soon, so look out for that. In addition to receiving comments in the final round, singers can win generous cash awards. There are 4 $5,000 winners in each division. Again, applications for the undergraduate competition open on November 3rd.
Thanks, Bree. And now moving on, our Schmidt Vocal Institute is our 2-week summer intensive for high school singers. It's held at Miami University of Ohio, usually the last 2 weeks of June. Next summer's program runs from June 14th to 28th, 2026, and we choose about 30 singers from across the country, and they come to work with rotating guest faculty as well as resident faculty, which includes Miami University voice teachers. The curriculum includes voice lessons, coachings, vocal health, diction, and more, and the program ends with 2 public performances. What's really great is that we have a partnership with Cincinnati Opera, so singers always get to see a professional opera performance, and we have a masterclass with the artistic director of Cincinnati Opera. SVI is open to all high school singers, including rising sophomores and graduated seniors, and as a plus, the tuition and fees are really quite reasonable. I'm really happy to give you a sneak peek of our 2026 guest faculty. We have not yet officially announced this to the public, so you are the first to know. Our guest faculty will include tenor Richard Cox from the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, pianist coach Justina Lee from the Juilliard School, and finally, soprano Marquita Lister from Morgan State University. We're super excited about having them join us. And then one of our fastest growing programs is the Schmidt Vocal Scholarships. First of all, we have partial matching scholarships available for singers who compete at a live regional and advance to the final round of the competition. If those final round singers audition and are accepted into the competition location university, they become eligible for a $4,000 matching scholarship, which is distributed at $1,000 a year. We also have a robust need-based scholarship program for singers who place first, second, or third at any of our live or online regional competitions. Families of those winners are able to consult with Dr. Ellen Frischberg, our SVA scholarship manager, and she guides them through the financial aid application process, which if parents have done that, I'm sure you know a little help is always needed. If it is determined that a family that we work with has financial need, we offer scholarships to help fill the gap in funding. Singers must major in vocal performance or vocal music education, and it's valid at any U.S. university. Currently, we are supporting about 60 singers at the university level, and that ranges from $1,000 a year to about $25,000 a year, depending on the singer's need. And now I'll head things back to Bree.
Thanks, Linda. And our final program tier is Schmidt Vocal Education. This is an evolving area, but currently we offer online events like this webinar and a series of online masterclasses. In addition to college scholarships, we offer 5 to 10 $2,000 alumni summer study grants for singers to pursue summer performance opportunities. We are also really excited about a new program we're offering this year, Opera Immersion Spring Break at the Met. This program will be open to 4 SVA alumni singers in their 4th year of undergrad or in a master's program. SVA will plan a weekend in New York City where they'll see 3 productions, plus the final round of the LaFont competition. In addition, they'll have the opportunity to perform in a masterclass with Myra Huang, the head of music at the Lindemann Young Artist Development Program, and they'll have a lunch and learn session with renowned bass baritone Ryan Speedo Green. The deadline to apply for that program is October 10th. So, as you can see, there is a lot going on. But for now, we're going to go back to the Schmidt Vocal Competition in more detail with Linda.
All right, so I'm sure many of you are here to find out a little bit more about the high school competition. And now we're going to focus on tips for the singers and some teacher tips too. So why should you enter, or why should you have your students enter the Schmidt High School competition? First of all, singers receive written comments from each adjudicator. We did a lot of benchmarking a few years ago, and this was the #1 reason why a lot of singers came to the competition. We have 3 adjudicators at each location. We crisscross them across the country, so oftentimes it's someone who has never heard you before, so you can gain valuable insight from fresh ears. Second of all, the singers get a chance to sing on a stage with a live pianist. This is not something to take for granted. Some competitions you end up singing in a little classroom or a vocal studio. We have so many great concert halls that the singers get to perform on with our wonderful SVA pianists. We also offer generous cash awards at the regional level. First place is $2,500, second is $2,000, and third place is $1,500, plus awards for finalists and encouragement award winners. And this summer, we will present our 5th annual national competition at, once again, at Sarasota Opera. We partner with them, and this will feature a $10,000 first prize. The top 3 regional singers will advance at each regional to Sarasota. And of course, as I mentioned, the top 3 from each regional also become eligible for those additional scholarship opportunities, including matching awards to the host universities and need-based aid for college, as well as potential scholarships to our summer program upon admission. We often get the question, am I ready to compete? Or how do I know if my student is ready to compete? And our viewpoint is, if a singer can fulfill the requirements, then why not? It's not only a competition, but an experience to perform. Speaking of requirements, as Bree mentioned, we allow high school sophomores, juniors, and seniors to compete. They have to have a recommendation by their voice teacher or choral conductor. And as Bree also mentioned, you have to be a US citizen or permanent resident with a social security number. Singers can only compete in 1 regional competition per academic year. So if you can't make a date closest to you, we have many across the country or the online cohort. Does the singer have appropriate repertoire? For the high school competition, we require 3 memorized pieces. One of the pieces can be a musical theater selection. Also ask yourself, am I interested in performing on stage and meeting other singers, or is my student interested? We really want the singer to be the one deciding if they really want to do this. Obviously some pushing by the parent or teacher might happen, but it's a really exciting opportunity for excuse me, singers to meet others. And lastly, we like to think of the competition as a learning experience as well as a competition. That's one reason why we always have a master class in the middle of the day. We also let people know that this is a place for younger singers to perform. It lets them see who else is out there, experience singing on a stage, and meeting other singers in their area. Sometimes it's not all about winning. And now we're going to head back to Bree with some overview of the day.
Thanks, Linda. So, what happens at a Schmidt Vocal Competition? For our live events, it's a 1-day competition format with 2 rounds of competition, plus a masterclass with the adjudicators and an awards ceremony. The competition is an all-day commitment, and it typically runs about 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Every singer participates in round 1. They will choose the piece that they'd like to start with, and then the judges choose from the remaining 2 selections. There are 7 minutes to perform in each round. After lunch, we'll announce 3 singers who will perform in the masterclass, which is a great learning opportunity for everyone. Then, we'll announce up to 10 singers to perform in the final round. Each finalist must sing the piece that they did not sing in the first round, and then the singer will choose the second piece. After the final round, you'll get to hear a little bit about the host university while the judges deliberate, and then we'll have an award ceremony.
Thanks, Bree. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, especially for what we've covered so far, please feel free to put that in the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the end. Now I'd like to go on and share a few tips that singers can use or that you can share with your students before you compete in our live competition. So a few tips about preparing your music for the pianist. Super important, obviously, this is your partner on stage. We have this information in all of our materials that we send out, so we want to please make sure the singers read that before participating in the competition day. We expect all of our singers to have the real scores at home, but for the purposes of this competition, we ask singers to bring a 3-ring binder with clean and clear copies of all 3 pieces. It's best to print out single-sided pages and tape them together. No staples or plastic pages. Staples can cut the pianist's fingers and plastic sheets can reflect light on the stage. But the reason why we do 2 single sides taped together, it's a little heavier and easier for the pianist to turn and the pages don't stick together. On those pages, you should have all tempi marked and cuts marked, and make sure that it's a clean copy and that you can see all notes printed in the bass line of the piano part on all pages. It's often nice to include a divider marking the 3 pieces that you're offering that day, and I would put the piece that you're going to start with at the front of the binder. We don't ask for your scores ahead of time, only in certain circumstances if the pianist asks. But if there are some locations where the pianist would prefer to use an iPad to play for the day, in that instance, we would email you ahead of time to email a PDF of your pieces. Then it's also important to think about how you interact with the pianists that you're going to be working with. At our competitions, all of the singers must use our staff pianist. There are no rehearsals, but singers get a few minutes backstage to talk to the pianists, and this is where the singer can talk about tempi and cuts. The singer should practice telling someone else, the pianist, their tempo. Usually singing a few bars is always better than snapping your fingers or conducting. Remember to be professional and efficient, and remember that that pianist is also a professional. Then it's also important to practice walking on stage and your introductions. Now, obviously, if it's a stage you haven't been on before, you might not be able to do that physically, but maybe you can peek on stage and then think about how you would walk on stage. And for teachers, this is something really great to do with your whole studio if you have a studio class. Practicing walking on stage with confidence to the crook of the piano, with your head up. If you don't know where the crook of the piano is, make sure you ask your teacher. We oftentimes, but not always if we're busy, try to have an X where we recommend that the singer stands on stage. And once you're in the crook, please smile. All of us back in the hall are really looking for you to have a good time up there, and we want you to do your best. For introductions, you should introduce yourself slowly and clearly. In our competition, we ask only for your name and the name of your piece and the composer. Singers should not say their age or grad year because the judges do not know that information. Also, eliminate anything about where you're from or who your teacher is. Then practice taking a moment to get into your character. The pianist should be able to clearly see when you're ready to begin just by your posture or your breath, and rather than a nod of the head that you're ready. And now a quick note, especially in our competition, about applause and bowing. In our competition, we don't have any applause in the first round. So a good rule of thumb, if there's no applause, then no bowing. Sometimes it gets a little awkward at the end of a performance and someone bows and there's no applause. In the master class and the final round of the competition, which is the afternoon session of the day, then we encourage the audience to have wild, raucous applause for everyone. And in that case, if you're walking out on stage, and you get to the crook of the piano and there's still applause happening, feel free to acknowledge the audience. And then also at the completion of your performance, please do take a bow. And I always like to check with my pianists beforehand how they like to bow. As a singer, I always liked it when the pianist stood up and we bowed together. Some people prefer acknowledging the pianist with your right hand after you bow, but that's something you can also chat with beforehand with your pianist. Okay, and now Bree's going to talk a little bit about our online competition.
Thanks, Linda. And now moving on to preparing for online competitions. So remember that there will be a difference in how you prepare. Video quality is very important. However, that doesn't mean that you need to hire a recording engineer or buy a bunch of expensive equipment. Nowadays, your cell phone can have great sound and video. When you have everything set up and you pick where you want to perform, remember to look for a few things. Frame the singer so that they're close enough to the face so that we can see their emotional expressions. If you have a grand piano, I like seeing the pianist as well. That way, it's close enough to see the face, but far enough that we get to see your whole body. That's simply my opinion. Others might want a more close-up view of the face. Also, make sure that the camera angle is flattering to the singer. Straight on is best, or from slightly above, but definitely not from below. Remember to check your sound levels. Check the high and loud parts, but also the low and soft ones. For the high parts, make sure the mic doesn't distort the sound. We want to hear those high notes. Also, check your lighting. Try to add some light if you're in a dark space. We want to make sure that we have sharp focus and the picture's not blurry. Double check the requirements. For instance, in our competition, we asked singers to introduce themselves, as Linda mentioned, saying their names, the song titles, and composers, but not to include the year or their age. Our judges don't know that information is not part of the things, or our judges don't know that information, and it's not part of the things that they consider. So remember to check the requirements for the video that you're preparing. Lastly, make sure that you watch the video afterwards, from start to finish. I really can't count the number of videos that I've watched that have had maybe a little bit of extra talking or a big sigh of relief at the end, or even a false start that was missed in editing. So make sure to watch that video from forwards to backwards and then again to make sure that it's exactly what you want to submit. So here are a few examples of good video frame. You'll notice that in these, you can see the singer and the pianist clearly. There's a good camera angle and lighting, and you can also see that you can make a video in a concert hall or even in your rehearsal room. All right, now we're going to talk about a few tips for singers from Linda.
All right, thanks, Bree. So oftentimes I poll our judges about things that they like to see at our competitions. And when I ask our judges, what is the one piece of advice you would give to a high school singer preparing for this competition? The majority will say, choose appropriate repertoire. So what are we looking for? What are good examples of an audition piece for a high school singer? So in our 3 selections that you prepare, we're looking for contrast. Adjudicators really want to see variety. That's of style, of language, of tempi. For instance, something more sustained and legato in the first piece, and then maybe you have a piece that contrasts, that it moves a little bit more or is more text-driven. We also love storytelling. showing that you have a connection and understanding of the text. The judges want to hear any piece that shows off what you do best and where you feel like the piece helps tell your story. Pieces that show character are great. Do you have pieces with differing characters? Really show us what you can do acting-wise. Do keep languages in mind. We actually do not have a language requirement. So if you're at the beginning stages and only sing in English, that's fine. You can find contrasting pieces like that too. But if a singer is able, having a variety of languages is a good thing. Italian is a great starting foreign language for singers. Some of our judges can be a little wary of a high school singer singing German or French. But if you are a singer with a good ear, that opens up a great list of competition selections as well. Also think about the ensemble with the pianist. Is this a piece that is difficult to put together without a rehearsal? If so, maybe not the best choice for this competition. If it's something tricky that isn't standard repertoire, it might be a little bit more difficult to put together in that first round of competition. And also, please keep in mind our time limits. For each round, singers have 7 minutes to present 2 pieces. I noticed we had a question about 7-minute timers. So the timing starts when the music starts. So you'll introduce yourself, and then if the piano music starts before you, it starts when the introduction begins. And then it runs through the second piece. So we do not stop it while the judges decide. And then you have 7 minutes to present those 2 pieces in the first round. Singers will be cut off after 7 minutes, and we do not deduct points for that. But remember that sometimes the best thing is at the end of the piece. So if you have really long pieces and you want the judges to hear the really great high note at the end, you want to make sure you have pieces that fall into those timing requirements. I'm going to add, Claire, we got a question about the repertoire. I'll just take that too right now since we're talking about that. We had a question for clarification. We perform our first song, which is one we choose. And then in the first round, you choose the first one, and then the judges choose the second piece to perform in the first round. So there's 2 pieces in the first round. And then in the final round, if you make the finals, you have to sing the third piece that you had offered, but then the singer gets to choose the second piece. So you have 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. So there'll be 1 piece that you perform twice in the day if you make the finals. Hopefully that's clear for the person who asked it. If not, you can ask again. Then moving back to what I talk about with the judges. I always ask the judges, would you rather have a high school singer present a more technically difficult piece that is not as polished, or a technically easier piece that is extremely well polished? Almost all of our singers say easier and polished, but there is one caveat. If you or your teacher agree that you are a more technically advanced singer for your age, a more difficult piece that shows off your capabilities might be rewarded by the judges, especially if it's polished. You don't want the judges to think that you're just playing it safe as well. Now, with all that being said, you have to remember that this is all subjective, unfortunately. There is no tried and true, everyone has their opinions. But, and I would say in our Schmidt Vocal Competition world, the adjudicators that we have, most agree that dramatic and lengthy operatic arias should be avoided for high school singers at this age. But if you have any specific questions about a specific piece, please do feel free to contact me. And of course, I'll give you my subjective opinion about what might work in the competition. We're happy to help. Also to note, many of our adjudicators are college professors, and when I ask them what they look for in our competition auditions or in their school auditions, most of them are looking for 6 different things. First one is tone quality and ease of production. We always love a beautiful, easily produced sound. Pitch and musical accuracy, especially musical accuracy. We want to hear correct notes and rhythms. Confidence on stage, musicality and an emotional connection to the text. We want to see obvious joy in singing. We want to see singers who are enjoying what they're doing on stage. And most importantly, we want to see a singer who has something to say and to give back to the audience. So that kind of sums up our tips for the competition. Thanks for joining us. At this time, we'll do some questions. Bree, did you want to take a few?
Absolutely. So first off, I'm going to re-clarify about repertoire. So when you come for the competition, you'll have prepared 3 songs in total, and the judges will have the list of your 3 songs in front of them that day. So when you come out, you'll announce yourself and the piece that you choose to start with, and then there'll be a short pause while the judges look at your repertoire list, and they will say, we'll ask you to perform this other piece off your repertoire list. And that will be the second song that you perform in the first round. So you'll perform 2 songs in the first round. Then in the afternoon, we'll choose the finalist or announce them. And those finalists will have to perform the third piece that they did not perform in the first round. And then for their second piece, they can choose from either of the remaining 2. So it is possible that if you perform in the first round and are not necessarily selected as a finalist, you would perform 2 of your 3 songs. Okay, I hope that answers that question. I'm happy to talk more. You can call me on the phone anytime if you want to talk about the logistics for the day. So I'll answer one more before I throw it back to Linda. Let's see. If I live hours away from the competition location, do I need to drive up the day before, or will I be able to drive up the day of? Great question. And that depends on exactly how you want to do things. So I will say the way that we assign times in the morning is based off of your driving time. That is something that we ask in the first part of the application. So you'll answer for us approximately how long it will take you to get to the competition location, and I'll take that into account when we assign times. For a full competition, we may start anywhere from 9 a.m. Maybe till like 11, depending on how many singers we have for the day. But the first round runs until 12:45-ish. So you'll be assigned a time anywhere in that time frame, and then you can decide. Hopefully, if you have about 4 hours drive, you might be able to drive up that day. Now, if you have a 6 or 8 hour drive, you might need to get a hotel room. So just to make sure that you're fresh and able to perform that morning. All right, I'll throw it back to Linda for another question.
All right, so we have a good question here. What should I wear to the live competition? Bree, can you move it back, the presentation back to our video? So these are actually 2 good examples of what to wear, coincidentally enough. We generally say like audition wear, interview casual. You do not have to have a formal gown for the regional competitions. You do not have to wear, a tuxedo, but for, a suit with or without a tie, or a long sleeve shirt and pants, for female identifying singers, you can wear a dress or a jumpsuit or whatever makes you feel the most confident on stage. So hopefully that answers your question. Another one that we had is, what should you do if you want to change your audition songs you already submitted? This is kind of depends on the timing of it. So you can change your repertoire up until the moment before you walk on stage in the first round. If you know a change is happening about a week before or sooner than that, we would ask you to resubmit part 2 of your competition application so that we have that in our database. And then we take the most recent one that we have. Please note, teachers, if that happens, it's going to trigger another automated recommendation request from us. It's just, you know, the loves and hates of technology. But you can, there's a little note on the bottom of that email that says, if you've received this before, and I always reply to the teacher recommendations. If you've gotten a reply from me, everything is set to go. It's just a matter of a singer usually resubmitting part 2. So that's what you do if you know a week or more in advance. If it's the week of the competition, please do let us know, preferably by email. You can email Bree at schmidtvocalarts.org or Linda or competition@schmidtvocalarts.org. And if it's before the programs are printed, then we will get it in the program and the judges' sheets. If it's after those are printed, and if it's right before you walk on stage, you would have to make a short announcement from the stage, which is not a big deal. It's just adding another sentence to your slate. So you would say, hi, I am Linda McAllister. I have a repertoire change. I would like to offer Du bist wie eine Blume instead of Ständchen, and I would like to start with Du bist wie eine Blume, or whatever you want to start with. So simple, easy, the judges are used to it. Again, you want to say it slowly and clearly. All right. A question, another repertoire question. If I have an extremely prepared German aria, would that be acceptable and appreciated? Most likely, yes. I would say maybe email me and ask and tell me what the specific German aria is. I would say if it's by Wagner, no. But there are many other German arias that some of our singers do use. So why don't you just email me that question after the webinar. Bree, do you want to take a few more?
Absolutely. One question, when do we know what time we'll need to come in? Great question. Applications for each competition are due 3 weeks before the competition date. So of course, those are a little different depending on which location you are registering for. So after the application deadline is when we'll start to work out time assignments. So you can expect a time assignment email to come from us in that week after. So sometimes I'm reaching out to singers in the day or two after the application deadline. So application or emails don't go out until that Wednesday. Sometimes I'm able to send them out right away on Monday or Tuesday. So expect them in that week after the application deadline. And that's about 2 weeks before the competition. One more question. I've paid the competition fee, but I'm holding off on finalizing the pieces. Is the spot secure now or only once I've submitted the pieces? Great question. So your spot is held once you complete part 1, which is registration and requires you to pay the application fee. So once you get that email that, you've paid the application fee and you get your receipt, your spot is saved. We won't give it away. Your repertoire is not due until the application deadline, which I just mentioned, that deadline 3 weeks before each competition date. That is when we'll need part 2, which asks for your repertoire information. One more question I'll go ahead and answer. What happens if we have a situation happen the day of and we can't make the competition? Of course this happens. Life happens, right? Maybe you're sick or maybe something happens and you just can't get there. Totally fine. Let us know. And we are happy to make accommodations. And if you want to participate in another competition location, we can put your competition fee towards that new location. but we always want you to participate as much as possible. So just let us know as soon as you know. Of course, it's easier to schedule things or move the schedule around with advance notice. So just let us know as soon as you know, and we're happy to work with you.
And I'd like to add on to that. The one exception for moving your application to another location is the online competition. So if you cancel the day of in the fall, you can't automatically get a spot in the online cohort because it's a separate application process. But let's say you're scheduled for the Los Angeles competition and you get sick and you want to go to San Francisco, you can transfer there if there is room. There's not always room, guaranteed room. The application fee is non-refundable, but we try and apply it to other locations if we can. And there was one other thing I was going to add to that, but I've lost my train of thought, so we'll go to the next one. We have some more repertoire questions, so I'll take those. If a piece is too long, are we allowed to cut part of it? For example, a piece with verses that repeats the melody, can we cut the second verse and go from the first verse to the ending? In general, yes. We do allow cuts. However, I would encourage you to maybe find pieces that do fall within the time limit because there are lots of them. And some cuts are standard and some aren't so standard. I would encourage you to only do standard cuts with that. If you have a specific question, you can also email that to me too. Another question about repertoire. For the one Broadway piece, are all types of Broadway pieces considered appropriate? For instance, if a student was between a more classic Broadway piece or a rock jazz oriented Broadway piece, which should they pick? Great question. You should pick what you sing the best. So if you know you're an awesome belter and you can rock that piece, then I would say start with that. Also, classical Broadway pieces are also beautiful, but they definitely will show different things. So if you want to show that you can do the rock jazz oriented Broadway things, then go for it. What I would make sure is that your classical pieces are just as great as the Broadway piece that you're offering. So that would be something to think about as well. I'll do the other repertoire ones, and Bree, then you can do some of the other things, okay? What are the particular requirements for pieces? Do I need one in English, Italian, or French? So we talked about this a little bit at the beginning. We do not have a repertoire requirement. So of the 3 pieces, they could all be in English. They could all be in a foreign language other than English. What we look for is contrast. So in tempi, in character, in mood, in style, that's the most important thing in our repertoire. Bree, you want to take a few?
Absolutely. So do we have 7 minutes total to perform our 2 songs? And after the first song, do we go straight into the second without a slate? So I'll kind of break this down into first and second round because it's a little different. You have 7 minutes to perform 2 songs in both the first and the second round. In the first round, typically we have singers introduce themselves and their first piece, and then the judges kind of say, we would like you to perform the next piece, so we don't typically have singers introduce that next piece. They typically go straight into it, especially because the timer is still running. So you want to make good use of your time there, so you don't need to slate the second song in the first round. In the second round, typically we encourage singers to get the talking out of the way, and they'll introduce themselves and go ahead and share the 2 pieces that they will perform, because in the second round, the judges are not picking. Hopefully that answers that question. Are auditions open to the public as an audience? Yes. All of the competition day is open to the public. So if you have friends, families, teachers who want to come and see you perform, they are more than welcome.
All right, and I'll take the last one. Last call for questions. We're on our last one on the Q&A box. If I apply for early admission to SVI and don't get accepted, can I resubmit new repertoire for regular admission? This brings up a good point. We have 2 application deadlines for the Schmidt Vocal Institute. The first one is in early January. That's for early bird admission. Typically, a handful of singers will get early bird admission. If you submit for early bird and you do not get accepted in that round, it doesn't mean you won't get accepted later on. And yes, you can resubmit new pieces by either resubmitting part 2 again or simply sending me an email. It's pretty low key. So if you don't get it in the early bird admission, then in the March audition, March deadline, I go through everyone again, including the people who did not get early bird admission in January, and everyone's evaluated against each other then. Yes, but you can submit new repertoire if you wish. All right, we have answered all the questions. Yay. With that, I would like to say thank you for joining us, taking the time this evening. We are here to help you in any way possible. So if you have other questions that you felt like you couldn't ask in the Q&A, please feel free to email Bree or me. Again, Linda at Schmidt Vocal Arts or Bree at schmidtvocalarts.org, not .com. We'll do our best to help answer any questions you might have. With that, thanks Chester for joining us. Thanks Bree. And I hope all of you have a good rest of your evening. Thank you.